Welcome to another Djoli Kelen experience. We thank you so much for joining us for our panel discussion. Panel discussion number 3, Mixology, Studying and Creating with Intent. I am Shannon Bird Crossley. I am co-founder, co-artistic director of Djoli Kelen Inc. And we are so excited that you are participating in one of our amazing things on our calendar of events. We invite you to continue to join in with the talks and to join us next weekend for our big, exciting concert. Well, without further ado, allow me to introduce our moderator, Miss Amaniyea Payne. She's a consultant, choreographer, and arts educator. She's a viable artistic force in the field of dance, and she has built an impressive career and is recognized globally for her many works as a dancer, singer, consultant, researcher, director, mentor, producer, arts educator, costume designer, healer, humanitarian, all the things, right? She's known to many in the African dance genre as a national treasure. And I say, indeed, indeed. She has been the recipient of many awards, which speaks to her career of achievements. As an artist extraordinaire, her style of dance evolves from a natural rhythmic movements based and influenced by dances of the African diasporas. She studied and trained and performed and toured globally with prominent companies and well-known musicians and dance legends. In her lifelong learning pursuits, Ms. Payne has collaborated with artists and organizations in the field of education, cultural and performing arts throughout the diasporas, and focusing on new ways to translate dance, and while still preserving and respecting traditional parameters for performance. She has a very deep sense of responsibility to honor legacies and great expressions of dance. Amaniyea respectfully continues to provide to various communities, including the youth, teens, and adults, and she helps with mental and physical health through education of the arts and aiding in the development of future generations and dancers and artists who will carry the aesthetic and the spiritual base of African-centered movements as it relates to world dance. That is amazing. And we are so lucky and grateful and blessed to have her. So ladies and gentlemen, please, without any further ado, please welcome Miss Amaniyea Payne.
Greetings, greetings. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our wonderful, wonderful panel discussion on mixology. I'd like to say peace and blessings to all who is chiming in this evening. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Amaniyea Payne, your moderator for tonight's discussion on mixology, studying and creating with intent. I greet you from Baltimore, Maryland, where I reside on the land of the indigenous people of the Lumbe, Piscataway, and the Cherokee nations. I live in a place that's steeped in the rich history of our ancestors and our survival right here on the Mason-Dixie line. The place where Harriet Tubman's and Benjamin Banneker's house still stands, and the many passages for the Underground Railroad as we continue to pay homage to those who have crossed those bloodlines and paved the way for our people to have a richer existence in life. To that, I say ashe. And with much respect, the pronoun I use is I am me, with a wide definition, inherited by my birthright as Pamela Payne, which I'm respectfully referred to as mama, sister, and sister. I'm sitting in my home office space where you see on the walls in the back of me some displays of my awards and some of my beautiful artwork. And I'm wearing a fashionable African print dress, which was given to me by a fabulous dancer from Senegal, Brother Edie Seeks, that's embroidered with pink, silver, and gold silk thread with a matching head wrap. And the jewelry I'm wearing is from my mother's collections that accentuates the embroidery on the dress. And I give thanks that her spirit is here with us tonight. This evening, I'm happy to converse with 3 dynamic artists who will be sharing their insights with us about the essence of mixology. But before we get into this conversation, I would like to take time to introduce this wonderful panel of multifaceted artists of different yet similar expressions. We are so happy to have Sister Akosua Akoto with us this evening, who, with every opportunity of artistic expression, moves from and through culture. She is a powerful force in the panorama of African dance and beyond. She's a scholar, a choreographer, an injury rehabilitation specialist, a personal trainer, and a premier global performer that has graced stages around the world and worked with celebrities across cultures. Sister Akosua is the founder of Fuse, F-U-Z-E, which is an Antigua-based carnival company, and the founder of the enterprise ASA, A-S-A, that is like an umbrella that offers many programs and houses compartments, which we will give her the pleasure of expounding on. So without further ado, I'd like to bring the astounding Sister Akosua Akoto to the camera.
How you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
Greetings, Sister Akosua. I hope I did injustice to your bio, but please, could you please give us some more insight as to who you are and what it is that you do?
Okay, I am a dancer, choreographer, and a performer. I like to put it in that order. I am also an injury rehabilitation specialist. My other part of my formal education is in sports medicine. I'm the founder of ASA Enterprises, which hopefully most of you guys know is one of the first African dance fitness programs, and we expanded that into personal training and group fitness certifications. And I'm the co-founder of Fuse, which was originally a mass troupe in Antigua, but we've expanded to just different businesses around the island so that we can kind of connect through that diasporic connection that we have. So that is me. Yeah, and I'm just here. I'm here just taking it all in, connecting with my fellow artists. And again, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Sister Akosua. Well, everyone, let me tell you this. If you want to find out more about it, please Google her name, because what she just told you is just a snippet of all the wonderful works that she did. Thank you, Sister Akosua. I'll be calling you back onto this camera shortly. But I'd like to now speak about our next panelist, who is an awesome dancer. He's hailing from Senegal, West Africa, but now residing in the States. His name is Brother Babacar Top. And at a very young age, Babacar studied, practiced, and performed the traditional exciting dance Saba at many traditional ceremonies before enrolling to study the Akani tradition technique with fellow Senegalese dancer Germaine Akani, who is considered to be the mother of contemporary African dance. Well, through nurturing his passion for contemporary African dance and the stories that they carry, Babacar has been able to explore the social and political implications of his Black African body. And after performing throughout Senegal, Europe, and the United States with different groups, he formed his own company called Top Dance. Check it out if you get an opportunity, Top Dance, where they have presented at Connecticut College, New York University, and at dance centers in New York, such as Kumbe and the renowned Alvin Ailey. Babacar's most recent collaboration was highly praised in the New York Times. However, he feels his most important work is what he does with the community on weekends, which is sharing libation, love, and liberation that's found in when dancing the special form of music and rhythms within Saba. Without further ado, let's bring Brother Babacar Top to the camera.
Hello, hi everyone, hi everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Babacar Top, and I am a Senegalese. I originate from Senegal. I'm a dancer, choreographer, and my dance is connected to tradition and modernity. And what else? First of all, I give my respect and thanks to my brother Sulé, which I haven't seen for like almost 15 years, 20 years. which I have met in École des Sables in 2008. And thank you for inviting me to participate in this panel, and also to salute my fans, my biggest artist, which I love so much, Akosua, and been following her. Hello, Akosua, how are you doing? Thank you for having me, guys. So yes, and I'm here and I'm so excited to be here. Welcome, everybody. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay,
Thank you
good.
very much, Babacar. We are so excited to be able to have you here with us this evening. And I'm going to ask everybody to also, just as I said with Sister Akosua, to please Google Brother Babacar Top and his fabulous company to check out the works that he do, to check out his schedule of events, and to check out where you could possibly take a class. Thank you so much, Babacar. I'll be calling you back to the cameras shortly.
Okay.
Thank you. I am so excited. I'm honored to introduce our third panelist, the founder and artistic director of Taurus Broadhurst Dance, an African contemporary dance company, Brother Taurus Broadhurst. Now, Taurus is a native of Richmond, Virginia. He's a performer, a teacher, a choreographer, and a very accomplished dancer, where he began his training with Easy Boo Muntu African Dance Company and continued his studies at Virginia Commonwealth University, majoring in the Department of Dance and Choreography. He has danced with numerous companies, some of my favorites, including Ron Brown Evidence, Chuck Davis African American Dance Ensemble, and Rennie Harris Peer Movement. He also performed in Dance Africa Chicago, Jacob's Pillow, Exit Festival in Paris, France, MTV, and Jimmy's Uptown Cafe Soul Erotica. Taurus has taught at NYU's Summer Intensive, the Bridge for Dance Studios in Manhattan, Harlem School of the Arts, City Dance, and internationally at the University of Trinidad and Tobago, as well as a guest instructor for Morehead State University. In 2014, Brother Taurus received Washington, D.C.'s Mayor Arts Award nominee for Outstanding Emerging Artists. That same year, he was artist in residence at the University of Maryland School of Theater, Dance, and Performance Studies. And in 2015, he was the recipient of the Maryland Choreographers Show. At present, Taurus is embarking on choreography with his company, who have performed at the Jack Goodone and Velocity Festival in Washington, D.C., Clarice Smith Performing Arts Center in Maryland, the Atlas Performing Arts Center's Intersectional Festival, Next Look, and Coco Dance Festival, Port of Spain, in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, as an arts director, Taurus is truly a galvanizer who has produced the Fresh series. Now, the Fresh series are shows that brought together emerging dance companies from across the East Coast. And now he is looking forward to doing more community engagement, be it locally or globally. Let us bring to the camera Brother Taurus Broadhurst.
How's it going, Mama Amaniyea?
Oh, fine. Thank you, Taurus. Pleased to see you again.
Yes.
It's been a long time since Dance Africa Chicago.
Very long time.
Yes.
Well, I'm Taurus Broadhurst. I'm a choreographer, dance instructor based in Washington, D.C. I hate to say former dancer, I guess we're always continue to be dancers, but now I'm focusing on the choreographer, being a choreographer and a dance instructor. My style is contemporary African, where I fuse African dance with many other styles, basically hip hop, modern, jazz, or whatever I'm feeling for the moment. Happy to be here. Thank you, Brother Sulé, for the invite. I'm looking forward to this conversation. You're muted.
Wow, I did that again, didn't I? I was muted. Taurus, thank you so much. I'm going to ask all of the panelists to please come to the camera so that we can start this conversation. And that's be a way for Brother Babacar?
Yes.
Yes, great. Okay, so now let's get into some nitty gritty. I'm going to start off this conversation. I'm going to give some insights on different things, and I'm going to ask you all some questions. Please feel free to dive in. And if not, I will encourage you to join in with us. So as we know, we are speaking about mixology, and I had the pleasure to be able to think about a definition of mixology. So mixology is a word or method within the diasporic dance that has been used from time within to create from. And as we all know, that this is not new. For many of our dance icons who have come before us have definitely used the aspect of mixology. So for me, it's creating with passion and skill, like any other discipline, which requires research, focus, study, intense specificity, and attention to detail for combining and creating balanced experiences. I call it collateral beauty. So I'd like to hear from each and every one of you. What is your definition of mixology, and how does it affect your basis of creativity? Okay.
There you go.
So who would like to start off on this one? Sister Akosua, you look like you're ready to jump in. I'm so sorry.
Okay. I think I'm used to just being picked on when nobody talks. Okay, so I'll jump in. That's fine.
I was trying to be a gentleman.
You know what, Taurus? So mixology, I think it depends on your perspective. It depends on, it's a lot about your viewpoint, definitely. So for me, I think about cooking with strong ingredients. And I think about, you know, how good the meal is based on, you know, what you really know, you know. So when you're bringing things together, when you're collaborating, I think the skill really comes when you know the extent of the things that you're bringing together. I think that is when it's not done that way, it can be, it can feel a little watered down because what you're bringing together, people don't really get the full extent of each piece. And it's what each thing is representing. And then when it's that way, then what comes out, the product isn't very clear. And I think that's where a lot of representation gets confused. So for me, mixology is just a collaboration of more than one very clear vision, very clear understanding, and very enhanced skill. So, and I think mixology is the beginning of a new technique. And as we know, technique is based on, you know, I don't want to say mastery because that feels really final, but something close to mastery of more than one thing. So mixology for me is just step one in something new based off of more than one very strong perspective. If that makes sense.
Thank you. Anyone else like to join into that one?
All right, well, I guess my definition of the mixology thing, it would be more about being the craftsman. So just like mixology is a bartender. It's one thing to be a bartender, but a mixologist makes this drink and elevates it. So I would hope that us as mixologists, what we're doing, we're elevating our art form, no matter what it is. And like Akosua said, it's like taking all the skills that you build up to put them together to create something amazing.
Babacar, you want to add to this or you want to wait?
Yes. So from my perspective, I think also mixology, I think is a kind of, is gonna go to the same way as a Taurus and my sister Akosua. It's also as an evolution of the world that we're living in. But I see it also in a form of like coming together and trying to understand different languages and different form of dance, because each country have many different villages and stuff like that, and each village have their own ritual and tradition. So in my opinion, the way that how I use dance form is not about the movement, it's beyond the movement. So every time I'm trying to mixing something, even though I have a different style that I learned, practice for so many years, hip hop, capoeira, acrobatic, gymnastic, and all that stuff. So sometimes it just come at the moment. It depends of how we wanna use it in that form. So from my perspective, it's just also another different evolution of like of our own imagination, how we can take it our own imagination beyond that movement that we just learn, you know. So yes, so that's I think that's my kind of definition of mixology of dance. I don't know if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes, it does. That was wonderful, everyone. So there's a lot of talk about preservation versus conservation. And the talk has been that in preservation, many say the art becomes stagnant, which that can be debated. Whereas in conservation, they said that that's needed, which it would allow continuity in the living tradition that also allows growth and trends for future generations. So I like to share a quote from Germaine Akani, and I'm paraphrasing this, and this is very close to what she says. She says, the dance of the village will always exist. However, dance's knowledge of other genres must expand along with culture, which will aid in preserving and building the new African culture of today. Now, this is pertinent because, see, I believe in the concept of Africa for Africans at home and abroad. And as we create from this idiom, my question is, in your work, what is your process, and do you separate the dance from the culture?
Anyway, okay. I can go. So paraphrasing, no. So if we look at it, if we look at dance just globally, historically, African dance is the only dance that comes from like function. You know, if we go to European dances, usually came out of court, or, you know, the way ballet was created, it came out of, you know, with like the decorative background of prestigious parties of the rich. If we look at, you know, Asian dances, traditional Chinese dances, it was all about court and welcoming and royalty, or, you know, whatever the dynasty was of that era. If you look at historically traditional African dances, it's all function. Everything is attached to ritual. We have dance for when the baby's born. We have dance when someone gets married. We have dance for when there's funeral. We have, you know, understand me? We have dance for when we're welcoming another ethnic group to a party. You know, we have, even though, so it's that our whole idea of stage is kind of new to us, in all honesty, if you look at the grand scheme of things. And separating dance from the culture itself is, from the African perspective, almost a survival technique. So, you know, after a certain time, when we're trying to reclaim culture, dance was just innate for us. You know what I'm saying? And so when we're out here trying to make money for ourselves, or, you know, trying to entertain because we are just creative on accident, you know, then it's very easy to separate the dance from the culture. And when the dance becomes a job, it's very easy to separate the dance from the culture. Or when you have to, you know, give it away so that you can support yourself and your family, it's very easy to separate the dance from the culture. But when we do that, we lose it. We lose the culture. And if you lose the thing that is feeding the dance, and that is feeding the thing that creates and innovates everything about the dance, then eventually you won't have it anymore. So if you're actually living the culture, then I don't, in all honesty, with all due respect, I don't know that that question is relevant. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're just living like these, you know, you have people who are like, oh, I have to train more, I have to learn new steps, and I have to learn, you know, new moves, and I have to, well, if you're in it, like, if that's just how you live, you know, if you're just in that environment where you wake up and someone's playing drums and dancing on accident, or if you just hear music and that's where you are, or if you just study from, you know, your trainers and whoever, if that's just part of your life, then I don't think we really have to worry so much about whether we're preserving it or conserving it. Like it is innate. And when we try to separate it, I think that's when we have to worry about, oh my God, are we keeping it safe? So I think living the culture is probably the answer to that question for me.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Do you guys concur, or you want to add something to it?
I definitely concur with what you're saying, but as far as, I guess me as an artist, I can't separate the culture from the dance. Even like when I'm doing my fusion, the first step I'm teaching a dancer is whatever the traditional step was, and then I'm taking them through the process of how I changed it. So one, I do it so that if they forget what I taught them, they're naturally going to go back to, I guess, the tradition, the culture of the movement. So it just makes it more natural on the body. But as far as separating the culture, yeah, a lot of things are for sale nowadays. And so I do understand that it's starting to make me nervous where the arts are going. Like, just now how popular, like, just African dance is or African movement is. And I've just seen a lot of people, I'm gonna say the word, appropriating the movement. It's not, I like when you appreciate it, but when you start to feel like it's yours, that's when the only time I'm having questions about separating the dance from the culture.
Yes.
But yeah, that's I'm gonna keep it, cut it right there.
It's real nice, Taurus, a real sweet Taurus.
You know how I normally could go.
Babacar, coming from Senegal, and
Wow.
we just like to hear your viewpoint on this.
Wow, I mean, from my perspective, it's very hard to separate everything that I do, like outside of traditional dance, because everything that I do is connected into the tradition. Because in all the Africa and where I came from, everything is a ritual and everything is like an initiation. So for me, like even being able to also share those movements with some people, every time, first thing that came on my mind is like, oh, I'm gonna tell these people where this dance come from first. Even though I'm working with a ballet dance company who is doing like all this lined up and all this different, form and frame and stuff like that. So I'm always like, the tradition is part of my lineage. So to separate that from what my process is very hard, because it's like initiation. So I go in that initiation to do myself and to be able to get inside of other different movement, because it's all came from there for me, for my perspective, because I didn't go to school where I have to study like a ballet dance or contemporary dance. I studied from traditional. So to do a deconstruction of traditional, and it allows you to like be able to also match to different kind of dance form, this colonization dance form. So it's like, I can't separate it. And also being in the US and have a whole community that who is like willing to know and understand and learn this dance form is also like give me another different possibility, to be able to go back inside of that. Because sometimes also it makes me feel kind of nervous at the same time, because the social media, of course, because people now doesn't have to go to study. It's not a craft. It's not a craft for some people. It's just some people sometimes for gigging. You only have to learn some movement or one of the step and then you get famous. You know what I mean? So compared to myself, me who come from like all this listening to all this, like my oldest people, like oldest who've been used to talk about it deeper inside of that. So everything that I do, I started from there before getting into another thing. So it's very hard to separate that. So it's that's my lineage. So yes.
Ashe. When I was working at Columbia College, one of the things they used to always say is that, well, we deconstruct and reconstruct. Well, that's good if you're still doing it within the parameters within the culture. But when you're trying to strip everything like it's been done to us within our culture, that's why I asked the question inside of it, do we separate the culture from it? So, as we continue in this conversation, we want to honor Dr. Karyamu Walsh Asante. So in her book, Hot Feet and Social Change, she speaks about African dance aesthetics, be it traditional or contemporary. She speaks about the spirit that's carried forth with vision, which brings about intent when choreographing. For instance, like when I choreographed African Swing in 1986 and Angola Invasion in the 90s, I thought about traditional parallelisms, politics, aesthetics, and form. So my question to you is, when you choreograph or you are commissioned, what elements do you pull from when you create? And within that creation, how do you continue to pass on the knowledge? And I think we kind of spoke about this, but maybe you can speak about it a little differently, especially when the dancers approach from many angles with many interpretations by many different people.
I think, for my opinion, it depends of what you're creating and what's your perspective inside of that thing that you're trying to bring in. Is it something that you need to, teach people, or something that how these people who is going to listen to you or watching this piece, what they're gonna get what things they can get inside of that thing that you're doing. So for my perspective, everything that I create came from also connecting into tradition, and I started from improvising inside of those traditions. And it's very the reality, how we living in, because I love to do research. So that's one thing that I do, being outside, seeing people lives and seeing what their struggle is, so that's something that I acknowledge a lot. And also talking to people, what's their idea of this thing that they creating, you know what I mean? So it's also like, yeah, it's always something that I pull my material from. Even though I have something with me, which like I've been doing it for like since I was young, grow up with inside of that and knowing it very well, but I don't get stuck myself inside of that form. So to allow myself to go into deeper, I need to go outside or talk to people or share the idea that I have and see what their thinking is. So that's how I create things inside of those things. I don't know if that makes sense.
It all makes sense, yes.
Yes, thank you for now.
I would say for me, it's been a journey, and right now I am at the point where I'm working on, in all honesty, the courage to say no. When you are commissioned to do a gig, especially in certain industry standards, even in community, I'm not even going to go there because it happens everywhere. When you are commissioned to choreograph according to someone else's vision, I think it is very important to solidify who you are and what your limits are. When we talk about tradition, for me, where I'm from, there are certain things I can't teach. There are certain things I am not supposed to give away. And even to teach it takes certain things from me. To give it to a certain group of people takes something from me. So if I'm going to choreograph, I first have to break down what the brief is. If the brief is in line with how I want to be seen as a traditionalist, as a dancer, and as a choreographer. And then, because at the end of the day, I'm always going to choreograph from tradition because that's who you are. It doesn't even matter if you're from tradition or not. Any choreographer is going to choreograph from who that choreographer is. If, anybody, if you didn't grow up in tradition, if you grew up in hip hop or crunk, no matter what the brief is, you're going to choreograph from that space. So if somebody gives you a brief, if you're commissioned to do something that doesn't necessarily agree with where you're coming from, for me, it is the courage to say no. Okay, so when I choreograph now, and that's a term that everybody takes very lightly now, choreographer. It is not about putting steps together. When you choreograph, like, you have a story to tell, you have a context to get across that has to be clear. You know, you have certain perspectives that you are supposed to represent clearly, depending on, you know, what the brief is. So for me, when I choreograph, I have to take all of that into perspective. And if I can deliver that without losing myself in what the end product is, then yes. If I have to chop up some of who I am and what I represent in order to do that, I am going to refer you to another choreographer. That's just what it has to be. And I think when we talk about preserving culture, which is hard for us because, you know, nowadays we have to get paid. Like we have to support ourselves and our family. And, you know, the way this works historically it's not put in place for us to do that. It's not really put in place for us to be successful without changing who we are. So I think if we all collectively, you know, have the courage to, when it's necessary, say no, unless you can take what it's done and take it in its most authentic form.
Yes.
Then, you know, we're going to keep asking the question, how do we preserve and how do we separate culture from dance? And we're going to keep asking these questions. And it's because, you know, I know we got to eat, but to what extent?
I do believe there's different spaces for each of these things, though, for preserving culture and making the money. But the whole point is trying to keep them very separate. Because people will try to pull you over to their side on the money side to get information or to just expand their vocabulary, which is really what they're trying to do. They're trying
even
to
if it's not separate, make it clear.
Make it clear.
Say, like, even if it's not separate, what are you doing? What is this for? Like, say what it is clearly. I agree, Taurus. I'm with you.
Agree.
Yeah. So when I start choreography, I focus on what the intent is. Yeah. But I'm learning that I probably would never change this. The audience is the last person who I'm thinking about when I'm creating. Like, I'm choreographing to either put something into dancers. Like, my favorite thing as an artist is a choreographer who puts inside of you. So when you walk away, when they walk away, it's yours. So that's my goal whenever I'm creating a piece. It's like, I'm trying to put as much information, confidence into the dancer, remind them why we're dancing. Why did you even come into the room? What made you think before you even decided that you wanted to dance? Remember, I always say, remember the first time you saw a dance. What was that feeling? Give me that feeling on stage or with this piece. But I'm always trying to build off of that with my storyline. And I think that's the way you get it to be more authentic. So that way you don't really have to sell out culture too much. Because I do like for everybody to have their own voice.
Yes.
You don't have to talk like me. Like, my accent is, I'm from Virginia. This is my accent. But I want Babacar's accent. I want Akosua's accent. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's what I'm doing when I'm creating. I'm trying to get everyone to speak from their own voice. Or give them, I hate saying give them permission, because hopefully as artists, we don't have to give each other permission to do anything like that. But
learn that.
Allow.
But open that up. Like, you saw. So usually for me to choreograph, honestly, it's the dancer that starts mine. Like, I've seen people like, oh my God, let me, Akosua, please just come into the studio. I think 5 minutes, I'm gonna get this. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I choreograph. But then, like you were saying, like, if it's
You're muted.
You made it, yes.
Thank you.
We got you.
Okay. But yeah, look, I forgot where I was at. But no. My goal is it's a shared experience. It's how I choreograph.
Babacar, anything you want to add? Are you okay?
Not for now.
Okay, that's good, because actually everything that's being said reminds me of when I worked with some of the elders in the Lindy Hop form, and what they always said was, you have to learn how to find your authentic self and find your voice. You are not me. So inside of the teachings and the learnings, we were taught well enough to be able to find that voice. And I believe in the aspect of applying your authentic self to your creativity. So now, on a much lighter note, but still very serious, I'd like to give you all the opportunity to let our audience know the works that you're doing now, any classes that you may have, et cetera, and then I'm going to come back with another question for you.
Well, mine is probably the shortest in the room. Let me get this out. So currently, right now, I'm not teaching. Since COVID has started, teaching online is so difficult for what I do because rhythm is the most important thing. So I kind of pulled out of teaching, but since we're opening back up, I'm actually looking for teaching. So if you're looking for an instructor, contemporary African, call this brother. But yeah, told you mine was the shortest.
Okay. I am teaching online. I have a few series on Zoom 4 weeks at a time. I'm doing the Ivory Coast series now. You can go to gosh, so many websites. You can go to asafitness.com and look out. There's a choreo series there. There are some projects. I'm a bit secretive because I feel like once you put it out, kind of changes where it goes. So there are some things that I won't discuss now. But yeah, there's always outside classes are always going, and it's not just me teaching, and then there's some traditional series online. And I have short-term memory, but if it comes back to me, I'll put it in the chat.
All right, guys. Wow. I just get back from Menzies, University of Tallahassee, Florida, for my second residency, because I will be premiere at Montclair State University on March 17. So if you guys are around and be able to make it, it will be nice to have you all. March 17 at Montclair State University. And also I'm teaching every weekend. It depends on the weather, because I like, since COVID, I like to teach outside. But also I teach every Thursday at Kumbe from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m., which is the deconstruction of African dance, which we call experimental sabar, which I call experimental sabar. So just to allow people to, just get the basic and understanding, the voice of this dance form, to just letting them know it's not something informal, but something that have form, that came from somewhere and came from a tradition, from religious stuff. Because of course, Senegal is a country of lay country, which we have like Christian and Muslim, but also of course the tradition dance is connecting more to like very religious thing. So, which is why I call it experimental sabar, to just allow people to take time, to not like something you have to go and just jumping in, flying all over the place, you know what I mean? But more taking time. So, and that's for beginner and advanced, anybody who are willing to just want to understand more this dance form. So that's happening every Thursday at Kumbe.
And Kumbe is in New York, and that's
Yes.
where you're based at. In Brooklyn, yes. And Sister Akosua, you're just online, and could you please maybe do the link and give that link to the classes that you may have?
Yeah, actually, I think Sulé just put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you, Sulé. Yes, thank you. Okay, so we always talk about purpose. We always talk about intent. Do you create and build with an intentional purpose, and what is your process and all of that? I've been doing a lot of different things with all of the masters that are out now. And I'm speaking for those that just take 1 or 2 dance classes, learn something a little bit, and then now they become dancers or masters. It's very difficult these times because it does make me look at things in a different place these days and times. I think you said that too, Taurus. Of course, you kind of didn't say that, but you revved and came into that energy of that. I believe that African dance is the mother of all dances and will always be at the forefront of every dance style. But I also think that it's important for us as dancers within this, as I say, panorama of African dance and beyond, is to ancestrally remember. Being born in the States, Taurus, you're born in the States, Babacar, Senegal,
Mhm.
And Sister Akosua, are you Antigua? Are you the islands or are you from the States?
No, I'm from here. I grew up in an Akan household, Ashanti.
Oh, yes, yes. So do you look at yourself as extensions and preservers of the culture? And are you still, and you've already answered, are we in the works that you are doing, and as we delve it out into community, are we still building platforms of continuum, or are we just merely expressing ourselves? And I ask that because with, again, back at the turn of dance for art's sake, and as we look at traditional dance, let's say things have meaning, things have purpose. You know, it make me think of that song, Love You With a Sense of Purpose. So I say, what's your purpose?
What's our purpose? Oh, Mama, you asked me like 6 different questions. Okay.
I know, whichever one. I talk like that, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm gonna try and cover everything. What is my purpose? You know, lately that's been a hard question for me because it changes daily. I like to think that my purpose, first and foremost, is to be a good human being. Because you know, everybody has these real complicated goals, and you know, I'm a philanthropist, and you know, I'm a choreographer, and you know, I'm a spiritual healer, and you know, I'm a whatever, and I'm like, well, how do you treat the next person? So I think that first and foremost, a purpose, I try to be a good person, and that extends, you know, to my family, and then it extends to my community, and then it extends to my work. And I think that just based on how I represent myself through my own culture, then that's going to find its way through what I create and what I put out there. So in all honesty, my purpose is really just authenticity in everything that I do. So if I do something tomorrow, my purpose is going to change a little bit, but as long as what I'm doing is authentic, then that's my purpose for the day. It's 2022. My purpose tomorrow is probably going to just to get through tomorrow, because this year is a tad bit, you know, so if I have a class, my purpose is to just make sure that, you know, I get the information across for the class. I really, in all honesty, nowadays, with how, you know, I try not to take advantage of life. I'm, you know, real talk, I'm just trying to be as authentic as I can be.
Yes.
And then you asked another question about, ooh, you hit me with like 6. What was the other one?
1,001, but that was great what you said,
Okay.
because it all related to all the things that I mentioned.
All right.
Being your authentic self and being, all of us being our authentic self is one of the most productive and progressive things that can take place right now.
Okay.
Really, you know. Brother Taurus, how about you?
My purpose right now is giving. Like, I'm trying to balance out the giving side of me, which is honestly the natural side of me, and paying bills at the same time, or or how much my purpose is to give and share, but yeah, just within balance, because like they say, the takers, they don't have limits. So yeah, my purpose right now is to share as much as I can with our community, or as many communities, but mainly my purpose is to share with my community.
Yes.
There's been a lot of like different things I want to do, and it's so rough. Like, can we have the conversation about the gatekeepers? Like, yeah, like we really could, this could be so, can it be so simple? It could be so simple. The doors need to be opened up for all the people with information to share, because there's a lot of us who are willing to give and share, but it's sometimes other people think they're blocking your purpose. And that's the one thing I am going to say, though, that controls that for me. So it's neat to see how I move like water through things. But sometimes, yeah, my purpose is to give. I'm going to leave it there.
Yes. Babacar, we have a question for you, unless you want to answer purpose first, but do you want to talk about your purpose, or do we want to ask this question that's so divinely stated in here?
Wow, I mean, it's so easy to answer that question because my purpose is just as same like everyone, just trying to be me and connecting with my ancestor. And, you know, at the same time, trying to share, you know, and this Senegalese tradition and storytelling that we were enabled to speak up, you know, with the outsider. So, which I'm trying to do my best. And also at the same time, you know, raising kids, making family, you know, just be like taking responsibility of this life and trying to understand and respect everybody, you know, as myself, you know, as I respect myself. So that's my purpose for now.
Thank you. And it's a blessing too. But I do want to add on to it that it's very important for us as artists to be able to up the ante on our economics within the field. You know, if we are living our art form, you've got to be able to control your economics inside of it. And of course, well, when you said you're trying to say no, God bless you. You know, I'm at a point right now in my life where I can pick and choose. You understand what I'm saying? And at one time I wasn't. But I did run a company that was on payroll for over 20 years with insurance benefits, and that was an African dance company.
Wow.
Of course, the economics and the funding, you know, hey, everything has changed now, so people are rebuilding that. But it is possible to be able to do this. It is possible. So we have to learn how to align ourselves, and you guys are doing it, you know, but we have to be able to try to up our economic status and find those supporters that can be able to help us put that foundation up under the economic foundation for stability up under us, so that number one, you as the main person in your organization can get paid, and then the others that come underneath it can sustain itself. So let me get to this question real quick for Brother Babacar.
Yes.
A question on Facebook came. It says, do you ever get negative feedback from traditionalists for expanding and mixing other styles of dance in your saba?
Ooh.
Ooh. Wow.
Ooh.
Whoa.
Ooh.
I mean, that's a very heavy question.
Yes.
Right? Sister Akosua, do you want to answer that?
Well, come on, Babacar, we want to hear you because we get the
I'm
we
gonna
get the
answer that for
pushback.
sure.
Thank you.
I'm gonna answer that for sure, in my opinion. You know, of course, you know, always people have a lot of things to say, always, you know, but it also depends of like how you mixing stuff inside of the suburb that you're doing. And of course, I always love to get negative feedback. Allows me to go back and step back to just study more, because I'm always about studying. I'm always about studying. So sometimes it disturbs me, even like seeing everybody appreciate it. So I love people like telling me, oh, what are you doing? You need this and need this and need this and need this stuff. You know what I mean? So, but it's also depending of what we're mixing, because sometimes I just don't jump into something that I don't really know. I'm that kind of person. I love to like just go. I even like willing to go to maybe Akosua class and be like, I'm gonna go and take a big class with Akosua. Even though I used to learn that from a different people from Ivory Coast in École des Arts, be able to do that. But also it's been so many years. So for me, trying to like bring that up in a different form, so I need to understand what I'm doing first. That's one thing that I acknowledge all the time. So me, every time that I get feedback, it's always helped me out to just go back, you know, be humble, always be humble, and just willing to learn, and, you know, and trying to bring something that, and, but it's also depend about how you feel, because sometimes I can be like, oh, today I want to feel like this. I'm feeling like just jumping, dancing sabar and making myself feel good, you know, because, you know, being in the United States, and having all your family in Senegal, in Africa, is also a different history.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's not everybody who understand that. But myself, I understand that part, which sometimes there's a lot of things in my own personal life, you know, which I might be like, oh, I need just today to just do whatever comes on my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that makes sense, but yes, for just answering your question.
Yeah.
But I'm always humble to just get a negative feedback, to just willing to go back and learn everything that I wanna, what people is thinking. But also, I am not doing only this for like one of people watching me, but I'm doing it for myself, to heal myself. It's a healing for myself.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yes. Thank you. Sister Akosua, you have a question also. And once again, I think it's important for those that dwell within the African arts and sciences, you know, that you have to understand that there is a very broad and wide aspect of it. So the question was Akosua, and somebody said, whoa, there's some things I cannot teach. That's what you said. And then someone says, that sounds juicy. They would love to know more about what limits are in place to keep culture and rules and respect. And so that's what I'm talking about. We got to study beyond just the movements and understand that there is a whole lot of aspects in arts and sciences inside. And I'm talking about the spiritual realms. So, Akosua, could you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so it really goes back to, you know, culture back home. Certain places you can't go back home. There are certain rituals you yourself are not supposed to see. You know, it's just certain things that I'm gonna go back to the word sacred, because nowadays everybody with social media thinks that they have a right to everyone's personal life. They have a right to everyone's religious beliefs. They have a right to everyone's spirituality. You know, they have a right to not only see, but be a part of all of that, you know, and then if they're not, then, oh, it's discrimination. No, you can't go everywhere, right? And you know what, that's okay. Yes. So when I talk about things that, you know, I can't teach, and I'll say the things that I choose not to teach, it's also about certain energies that I choose not to bring to a certain space. It's certain practices that I choose a certain crowd should not see, or at least shouldn't see from me. Because those certain, again, it's functions. Certain dances are for a certain type of healing that are not supposed to be for the public. You understand me? So it comes down to the fact that it's the way I came into dancing. I didn't know that I was dancing or performing until I hit about 12 or 13. It was just, you know, this is just what we did when we were supposed to pray. This is what we did when someone got married. This is what we did when, you know, at a certain age. So when I talk about things that I'm not supposed to teach, it's more about things that certain people ain't supposed to see, and that's really okay. You know, like privacy is not discrimination. Privacy is okay. Like everybody does not have access to all of you. And then when you do that, when you give everybody access to all of you and to all of your energy, you know, then you start to wonder why you're drained. You start to wonder why the movements are not coming into your body. You know, you start to wonder why you can't hear properly. And when I hear, I mean hear, you know, so it's a cultural thing, but it's also a personal choice. Yes. Because it's access, but it's also like, okay, if I give this to you, where is it gonna go? You know what I'm saying? Where is this gonna end up? And then when it gets end up, then morphed into something else, or it comes back to me, you know? So it's about keeping certain things sacred in a place where everybody feels that they have a right to access everything. Back home, traditionally, certain people didn't have a right to access certain things. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. It's because, you know, you don't have the mindset yet to understand it. So why would we expose this to you? And that's okay. That's totally okay. And then it also comes down to ritual. When you get even not just at home, but even here in America, when we talk about teaching and mastery, dance training for me, we wouldn't dare teach until we passed a certain level, and if you want to translate that, that was ritual. We wouldn't dare call ourselves masters until we passed a certain level or until we access a certain skill from our trainers. You know what I'm saying? Like the people who we called masters now, they dance in a certain space that we couldn't even go yet. And you know, it's okay. You understand me? So for me, I think we've kind of lost, when we say boundaries, it comes off as something negative. And that is a problem, because if everything is open, there are no levels, there's nowhere for you to go, there's nothing for you to learn, there's no more challenges. Everybody just gets everything. And then when things get morphed, we want to start crying appropriation, or we want to start crying, or I was the originator, or we want to start crying, or she took this, or he took that. Well, honey, let's
you let them in.
So boundaries it's okay. It's totally okay. So no matter what gig I get, no matter if someone requests something of me, I have the right as an artist and as a person and as a traditionalist to either say no or to say, you know what, I can give you this because I also have the knowledge to do that.
Yes. Well, I love you all three of you all. You have been so enlightening this evening. You know, time is of the essence, and as you see, we're coming to the finale of this conversation. But before leaving this evening, we have a lot of young people that are out here. They're listening to us, they're watching us. And if possible, I would love for you to give an inspirational thought that we can carry with us this evening as we continue to create.
I would say have the courage to be uncomfortable. We nowadays, a challenge is considered toxic, you know. Have the courage to be uncomfortable. Have the courage to not understand something at first. Have the courage to not pick up something and, you know, perfect it at first. You know, even if you're talking about dance class is class. You're supposed, if you knew it, you'd be the teacher. Like, you know, have the courage to put yourself in places where you're not at the top. You know, have the, just, it's okay to be uncomfortable. That's how we grow. And if complacency is just really going to keep everybody at the same level. And that's not where we want to be.
Yes, thank you.
I'm going to piggyback off of Sister Akosua with the challenge yourself constantly. If you're the best in the room, you're in the wrong room. If you're the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room. So always try to challenge yourself. And for the ones who are here really for dance, just remember why you do this. Like, because there's going to be days when it's not going to pay. There's going to be days when your body's not going to function. There's going to be days when it's all downhill, but you still should have the strength to get up and do it every day. Challenge yourself.
Amen.
Pain isn't always a bad thing.
Oh, that's my last name. Oh, I'm sorry. I have jokes. That's beautiful.
Wow, what I say is be humble always, all the time, and put imperfection in front of perfection in yourself every time, which is going to allow you also to be at the place of listening and also, you know, acceptance. So, which is very important, and loving also what yourself, even it is one step that, you know, just feel free, feel always like you have a space for your own self. Wherever you are is still your room, is still your space, because everybody have a voice. So don't never be, you know, afraid to just let your voice out.
Yes, beautiful. And I'd like to add one to it also. I would like to say, no matter how much you think you know, always keep a student's mind.
Yes, that's very important.
Well, I'd like to take this time to thank our panelists for this powerful sharing. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your attentive ears. And we all know that it's difficult to touch on everything because there's still so much more to discover as we indulge in this aspect of mixology. So I say from authenticity, traditional values, cultural creativity, futurism, commercialism, all of this is an ever-evolving form that heals. So please remember collateral beauty. And no matter how this dance is presented, it's still a reservoir of African wisdom in the form of artistry, science, and cultural awakening. It's full, it's resourceful, and it's empowering. I hope this communication has been enlightening. I hope it's been insightful and useful to you. For me, I say thank you. So everyone, please continue to have an open heart and an open mind as we continue to share our cultural aesthetics with the world. Thank you, panelists. Peace and blessings to you always. Thank you, Sulé.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.